Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's that time of year again. NFL predictions, the beginning of the season, 2022 season is actually starting tomorrow. So I know this channel for most of you is usually baseball content, power rankings, etc. But I am trying to broaden my horizon. NFL is definitely one of my favorite leagues to follow, and I follow it every year. Last year we did some power rankings. I'm going to try and do more videos all around on baseball, football, some hockey. So if you guys are interested in that, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. We got lots to go through, but in this video I'm going specifically to talk about my predictions for each of the divisions, who's going to finish where, and I guess who's going to make the playoffs. Not too much to go about it. If you know me, I don't really follow preseason too closely, especially in the NFL. I don't find it really matters all too much. And I'm going to probably get some things wrong with a lot of shuffle going around. So bear with me, guys. This is just a fun video of my predictions, really. We'll start things off with the AFC East, who I think is going to finish at the bottom. It's probably no surprise. They were like the bottom of the power rankings for the most part last year. It's the New York Jets. They're hoping to make some steps forward. I think Joe Flacco is going to be, for the most part, coming out of the gate with Wilson still recovering from injury. He's possibly washed up, but he's also possible a veteran on a team that really is starting to get their young guys and get more solid all around the field other than quarterback. So they really want to see Wilson take some steps forward when he comes back this year. But this division, pretty tough for them to make any steps forward. Overall, I would expect them to get a little more wins than last year, but I don't know if that's saying a whole lot for the Jets. Number 3 in the division, I got the New England Patriots. Again, the Patriots, I think, surprised me last year, especially they made the playoffs. I think at the beginning of the year, I predicted them not making the playoffs. I think most people were kind of counting on them out with Tom Brady and the change of the guard. But Mac Jones, he really stepped up, and with Bill Belichick, you can't ever really count them out. They finished second in this division last year. Maybe it's a little bit of bias, as you can see, hardcore Dolphins fan. For the most part in baseball, I wear all sorts of different teams, but I don't really own any NFL stuff, so maybe if this channel, NFL, starts to follow, I'll pick that up. But I do have my own Dolphins finishing second in the division. They made some big moves, obviously, with Tyreek Hill. For the most part, it's Tua. It's going to be a Tua story, whether he can finally come out. He's got the weapons. There's no real excuses why he can't succeed with this offense. They got new head coach coming in there as well for the Dolphins. A lot of excitement, especially for Dolphins fans, whether this team can take the steps forward necessary to make a playoff berth. I think, given that their defense has been pretty solid for a number of years, this new offense giving Tua, I expect him to make some steps forward. He was named captain. The team seems really far behind on him. So number 2 for the Dolphins, I do suspect. I think coming, no surprise, we got the Buffalo Bills top of the leaderboard with Josh Allen. If he can even come close to repeating what he did last year, should be a pretty big walk in the park. Right now, the Bills are Super Bowl favorites. Don't really know what else to say. They lost a little bit in Beasley, but I guess they don't really expect that to be too much of a difference. Bring in Von Miller. Fun stuff coming up for them. Coming on, we'll move on to the North. The AFC, we got bottom, my prediction, Cleveland Browns. I think if you're out there signing Deshaun Watson, hoping he can come back and be your quarterback, there's a lot of concern there. I don't know. Browns just seem to have that mojo where they can't get anything going. They're kind of cursed. And I don't know, what really they have going forward for them this year. I think it's going to be a tough, long season for the Browns. Number 3, I do have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Surprisingly, made the playoffs last year. I kind of looked at it going into today, and caught me off guard that they made the playoffs. And kind of remember that their defense was super solid last year. They had Ben Roethlisberger. So Trubisky's coming in for the Steelers. Kind of expect Trubisky's can't do much worse than he was in Chicago. Got Tomlin at the head coach, being able to probably teach him a thing or two. I expect, honestly, the Steelers probably to be an overall better club than last year. They might miss Juju Schumacher not on the lineup, so that could hold them back a little bit on offense, but they had trouble getting offense going to begin with. Their running back solid as usual. Don't sleep on the Steelers. I think for the most part, a lot of people are coming into this year, but maybe I'm wrong in misinterpreting things. Number 2, We got the ex-Super Bowl champions. We got the Cincinnati Bengals. This is kind of up for debate, 1 and 2 for most people. I have the Bengals at number 2. Do you think that the big difference being that the Ravens, I'm just going to put them up there because they're kind of going hand in hand here. I have them number 1. I think the Ravens last year suffered right out of the gate, tons of injuries, definitely the running back situation, and we got Lamar Jackson, who had an injury that he was dealing with last year as well. If he can get anywhere close to what he was like in that MVP season, Ravens have a little bit of the edge. We got to remember the Bengals during the season came out in some really close games that maybe they got lucky squeezing out down the stretch. And but they were a Cinderella story, and arguably they should be number 1 because they are the ones that need to defend. But here we are. This is my prediction video. I'm choosing the Ravens. Number 4, moving on to the AFC South. We got Houston Texans. No real changes. I guess they're going to be looking at their Pierce, their new rookie running back, and whether he's going to make a little bit of offense. We got Cooks on there, who's always constantly underrated across the league, but David Mills makes his return at quarterback. Is he a quarterback in the future for a team like this? I don't know. And right now, with the rest of the division, I just have them quite a bit far back and probably one of the weaker teams in the overall AFC. Number 3, Etienne Jr. making his return finally after some surgery last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence at the quarterback. This is their chance to try to make some steps forward. They've been in the bottom of this division for so long. And I personally think they're going to make a little bit of a run here. I wouldn't be surprised to even see them take the 2nd spot. Hey, let's not get crazy, but first, possibly, maybe I'm crazy. I'm not going to talk about it. So, Jacksonville going to be quite a bit ahead of the Texans, my prediction. But that's pretty much it. They do have a long way to go. They're still kind of relying on whether Lawrence can be that quarterback of the future. Number 2, Tennessee Titans. I just don't see Tannehill being the quarterback that can carry this team to the promised land over and over. Like, sure, he can make the playoffs, but he doesn't seem to get it done when it comes to playoff time. Derrick Henry, he can carry the load. He's starting to get older. He's starting to have all those yards starting to add up on him. And, of course, last year he had that injury, so it's going to be tough. They got a team that's up and coming, in my prediction to win this division. Number 1, Indianapolis Colts. Last year, the Colts were the ones to miss the playoffs by just a smidgen, going 9-7. But they bring in Matt Ryan because I think they thought quarterback was pretty much the weak point. They got Jonathan Taylor, who crushed the league in rushing last year, pretty much the number 1 draft pick in all fantasy leagues across North America, Europe, wherever you're doing fantasy. So I think the Colts have a little bit of edge here, that their defense, all-around offensive weapons, with Matt Ryan coming in, as long as he can just do what Matt Ryan has done in his past, I think it's a good sign for the Colts. Moving on to the West, which I consider the strongest division in the AFC. I'm not the only one for sure. Got number 4 being the Raiders. Playoff team last year, let's not forget it. Raiders very well. This division could be a mix. Honestly, it's 1 through 4 here in my predictions, but I would not be shocked at all if any team can finish in any position. Raiders bring in Devontae Adams, which could be huge, but they always say that the wide receiver is made by the quarterback, so he's about to find out that Derek Carr definitely isn't Aaron Rodgers, so we'll see how that plays out. That's probably the storyline I'm most excited for. Number 3, the LA Chargers. Not too much here. Herbert had a pretty good season last year. They missed out on the playoffs, but just that little bit with the Raiders getting into that last spot. Don't really know what else to say. I feel like, not too much to add there. Number 2, got the Denver Broncos. Russell Wilson coming in. So Denver's been a while without pretty much a solidified starting quarterback. It feels like it's been since Peyton Manning, and now they got the running back who's made some strong gains along the way, and they got a strong defense. I think Denver is one of those teams that definitely, when they have home field advantage, they just get that extra edge too, so they get to play half their games at home. It's a big edge, definitely against this division. I wouldn't be surprised to see Denver have one of the biggest turnarounds from last year. They started the season last year super good, 3-0, I'm pretty sure, but they also had an easy schedule out of the gate. Number 1, we got the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's really hard. Like, they lost Tyreek Hill, of course. They bring in Juju Schuster, which I'm excited to see. I don't think, and I already talked about it before, that the wide receivers made too much. The quarterbacks the other way around. So we'll see Patrick Mahomes and all that, and Andy Reid. It's going to be exciting to see how they adjust to the new playoffs, the new like offense, getting that going. But I expect them to make big runs here, and the Kansas City Chiefs are the team in the West to dethrone. It's going to be tight though. That's one of the top divisions. Of course, the top 4 teams are going to be my predictions to make the playoffs, at least from each division here. I think the bye is going to go to the Bills. Kansas City would usually have a shot at it, but I think the division's too tough. That's going to make a big difference. I wouldn't be surprised if the actual bye comes from one of these 2 teams, the Bengals or the Ravens. Otherwise, guys, there's 3 other teams I think are going to make the playoffs. Going to be the Bengals here, Dolphins, and the Broncos. Those are my 3 teams. So that's going to leave Tennessee, Chargers, Steelers going to miss. Like, this is what I'm predicting to be in the playoffs. But guys, let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you have making the playoffs, who am I way off on here, and et cetera, et cetera. And we'll move on to the NFC. All right, NFC, we're going to start off on the same side with the East, and it's going to be the Commanders at the very bottom. I just don't think they have what it takes to really move up too much. They're switching their team logo, of course, to the Commanders this season. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, and it's slipping my mind Carson Wentz, quarterback. I don't know, like, it didn't work out in Indy for him. They do have some weapons, like on wide receiver. They got their running back. Both these guys have become staples in this offense. We'll see. They're probably one of the teams that could come out and be a surprise. Anyone in this division, I feel like, could be a surprise. Number 3, New York Giants. This division overall was considered one of the weakest, especially last year. Giants missed Barkley for the majority of the season. We're going to see him come back, and I expect him to make a big impact on the team this year. Don't expect too much more than that. Like, they still have a lot of work to do to overcome. But if there's a division that's up for grabs by any of these teams on the NFC side, it's definitely this one. Number 2, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, I don't know. Not too much to add on the Eagles, honestly. Yeah, I'm just going to move on. Number 1, the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's pretty safe pick. Like, I think overall you could argue that I just went kind of safe on this one. I don't have a lot of input on the overall NFC East. I think the Cowboys probably are the best team in overall. They have probably the best running back duo. They probably have the best quarterback, wide receiver, arguably the best there too. So I think that just gives them the edge overall. Moving on, let's just go to the North. Number 4 at the bottom, we got the Justin Fields-led Bears. I think NFL.com had the Bears ranked number 32 overall. I don't know if I technically agree with that, but their defense probably going to take some steps back. We're used to this Bears defense being super strong. I don't know if they can keep that up. They're definitely in a rebuild mode, but this is Fields' chance to really show that he can get it done, and he has some weapons, so we'll see. It'll be exciting to see him, but it's going to be tough because this division overall is pretty strong. Number 3, Detroit Lions, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions actually make a fight at an even stronger position than this. The only concern, of course, is they got Goff back at quarterback. I don't think has what it takes to be leading a team off to the promised land, but maybe I'm wrong with DeAndre Swift, and they got that wide receiver that put up some good numbers last year. Don't be surprised. Like, the Lions have been bad for so long. Like, they're overdue to have some of these draft picks work out, build a somewhat strong team. And I do believe this is their chance to really come out of the basement in this division. And I wouldn't be surprised for them to at least come number 2, because I think this team's always up for concern as of late. It's the Minnesota Vikings. Kirk Cousins he's such a wild card. Some days he's just monster, and other days he's awful. They tend to have a lot of close games, a lot of high-scoring games, and their defense doesn't tend to hold the other team too closely in terms of score down to the wire. I think overall I would have most of these teams missing the playoffs. Wouldn't be surprised to see the same team, the Green Bay Packers, leading the way. Even though they lost Devontae Adams, it's time for people like Lazard. They brought in some younger talent as well. Like I've talked about previously in the video, it's the quarterback that makes it. Aaron Rodgers, pretty much a veteran of the game now at this point, gonna possibly make a shot at going for MVP and stuff. We don't know. It's going to be exciting with all the COVID distractions behind him. Can he move on to have a solid year in Green Bay? And I'm excited to watch Rodgers this year for sure. Moving on to the South, one of the coolest divisions. We got the Atlanta Falcons at the bottom. Pretty much gotten ugly there. I think it's Jacoby Brissett, the quarterback. So you pretty much know your team's not really going for a Super Bowl this year when you're bringing in Jacoby as your main guy. But they still got weapons, especially on offense with Patterson, who can line up anywhere. You got Kyle Pitts, of course, though. You're going to be missing Ridley, at least for the first little while, so that's going to put them behind the 8 ball, at least out of the gate. But Falcons, I think, not going to make it. Number 3, we got the Panthers. Still a lot of questions with quarterback for this team, but we all know Christian McCaffrey. He's a monster. They have some wide receiver weapons, and of course their defense is all right. So Carolina started the season off last year. I'm pretty sure they started 3-0, something like that. One of the stronger teams before they really fell off down the stretch when Jake couldn't get it done for them. We'll see, but I don't really see that too much. Number 2, but New Orleans Saints. I expect Flamus Winston is going to be in there. Jameson back for them for sure. Defense has always been strong part of the Saints game. And with Kamara there, it's a pretty overall solid team. It's, again, the question is it going to be Jameson throwing 30 picks, 30 touchdowns kind of season? Very well could be. But with their coach really holding a tight leash on him, hopefully they find a way to bring out the best of him. I do think there's going to be some wild games coming out that the Saints are involved in. Number 1, I don't know how I could pick anyone else at this point. Tom Brady is back. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, still pretty much all around solid team. Gronk's not going to come back, of course, but not a big deal. Overall, they are probably going to hold this division. It'd be pretty tough to think otherwise at this point. Moving on to the West. I got the Seahawks. I consider the Seahawks probably to be the worst team in this league. Or not league, but on this side of the thing. I wouldn't be surprised if they have the worst record by the end. Doesn't necessarily mean they're the worst team, but they might have the worst record because I think the other 3 teams ahead of them are far ahead of them. It's a little concerning when Geno Smith is your starting quarterback and Drew Lock is battling for number 1, and you're not really sure who to go with. You got 2 number 1s potentially that are fighting for it. Doesn't tend to work out too well for you long term. DK Metcalf's still there, of course, but I just think that they're going to be too far behind the 8 ball when all is said and done in this division. Number 3, it just goes to show that the Cardinals are number 3 in this division. That's how strong this division is. I still think the Cardinals are probably top 10 team in the league. Wouldn't be surprised if next three teams all make the playoffs. And that's going to be my prediction. We'll get to it in a sec. But Cardinals, Kyler Murray really has to take a step. He had an amazing first half of the season last year. We didn't see him really carry it through past that into the playoffs. Didn't really work out for them. But yeah, they're going to be out without Hoskins for the first half of the season, so that's going to be a concern too. But if they get by with minimal damage, I think it'll be good, and they're definitely one of the top teams in the NFC, even though they're 3 in this division. Number 2, I'm predicting the 49ers. With Garoppolo coming back, Trey Lance has probably a short leash, but at the same time, he has a good mentor there. It's going to be interesting how they play out that quarterback situation all season long. Overall, this defense is solid. They have a lot of weapons on offense, and a team that I always sleep on, and I'm going to try not to sleep on them this year, but that very well could be the end for all 49ers fans. If I'm starting to get on your bandwagon, that's probably not a good sign. Number 1, we got the Rams. We got the ex-Super Bowl champs. How can I predict really anyone else other than the Rams to win this division? Got to give credit where credit's due. Odell Beckham Jr. potentially coming back to play with the Rams. It's going to be all depends how the ACL plays out. Cooper Kupp, probably top wide receiver in the NFC. They got a lot of weapons. There is obviously concern with Stafford and that injury to his forearm, etc. Can they repeat? Repeating's always hard, especially in the NFL, but it is what it is, and I got to stick with them at least until they show otherwise. They have a tough first game against the Bills. It's going to be awesome seeing those 2 teams play each other. So, as I said on the other side, top 4 teams, predicting all of them to make the playoffs. If I'm going to have to pick a team to get the bye, I'm actually going to go with Tampa Bay at Buccaneers. I just think with a little bit of a weaker division, I think the North is starting to get a little bit ahead, and Green Bay might regress a little bit over last year, so I'm going to have to give the bye to Tampa Bay. And then after that, we're going to have 3 teams make the playoffs. I'm going to pick the 49ers, the Cardinals, and believe it or not, I'm probably going to lean the Saints at this point as to being the 3rd team and final seed to make the division. And there you guys have it, the NFC side of the predictions. Let me know what you guys think of the whole video. Are you excited for the football season as I am? Are you here just because you like football, baseball as well, et cetera, et cetera? We're going to have lots of videos coming out over the next few months, honestly, and going forward. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you guys for that next video.